Hey, this is Oscar from the Coding Universe, and in this episode of Java Game Development, episode 11, I'm going to create a Minecraft-like game. This is going to be a 2D variant of Minecraft. So, in this episode we're going to cover creating the blocks and showing them on screen. So I can delete this, close all, and create a new package called Minecraft 2D. I'm going to create a new class called boot, an enumerator called block type, a class called block, and a class called world. Now let's go to the simple OpenGL renderer class and copy everything into our boot class. Of course, change the names. Didn't mean to do that. Okay, that's good. Change the title to Minecraft in 2D, so Minecraft 2D, and delete this rendering stuff. Okay, now let's go into block type, and this will basically represent types of blocks we have. So we have stone, we have air, we have grass, we have dirt, and we also want to store the locations of these of the images paired with these block types. So I'm going to create a public final string location and a constructor public block type, which takes a string as parameter, which will represent the location. So say this dot location is location, and remove the public here. So now the location will be res/stone.png, res/air.png, and res/grass.png. Lastly, res/dirt.png. Now for the block class, we want to have it a type, so private block type, and this will default to air. And we also want it to have a location, so float x and private float y. Then let's go to the world class and create a public static final int block size is 32, and statically import this into the block class. Okay, now let's create a constructor and some getters and setters. We're also going to create a method called draw, which will draw a block at the location. But we'll do this later. Now let's save everything and create another class called block grid. Which will have a private array of blocks. And in world we're going to create another public static final int called blocks width, and this is going to be 20, and blocks height, which is also going to be 20. So in here I can say is new block, oh by the way, statically import the field, so import static world dot block, just import everything. Okay, so we can say private two-dimensional array of blocks is new block blocks width and blocks height. Now create a constructor. And in this constructor we're going to initialize every block to a block of air. So create a nested for loop. For int x is 0, x is smaller than blocks width minus 1, x plus plus. For int y is 0, y is smaller than blocks dot height minus 1, y plus plus. And now say blocks x, y is new block type dot air x times block size and y times block size. And now all we have to do is create some accessor methods for this array. So public void set at int x, int y, block b, or I suppose we could do a block type as well. So, or instead of. So do blocks x, y is b, or new block b x times block size and y times block size. Now public block get at int x, int y, return blocks x, y. Now the method draw, and we'll iterate over all the blocks again. So for int x is 0, just copy this. And do blocks x, y dot draw. Okay. Now let's implement the draw thingy. So let's first statically import the OpenGL 1.1 thingy. So import static org.lightweight.game library.opengl.gl 1.1, everything in there. And do create a new variable called texture of type texture. And in the constructor, say this dot texture is texture loader dot get texture png new file input stream new file, and the path name is type.location. and just catch all this. So in the draw method, we can say texture.bind GL begin, GL quad, GL end, GL text chord to F 0 0, GL vertex to F 0. Let's see, texture, no. Yeah, 0 0 as well, and GL text chord to F 1 0, GL vertex to F block size 0, GL text chord to F 1 1, GL vertex to F block size block size, GL text chord to F 0 1, GL vertex to F 0 block size. Okay, now in here do GL push matrix, and here do GL pop matrix, and do GL translate, or just omit the push and pop, and do GL load identity, that's easier. So GL load identity, GL translate to F, X, Y, 0. Omit the 0. GL just GL translate F, X, Y, and 0. Probably best to do a GL load identity here as well. Okay, so now we've got this all sorted, we can go into Photoshop and create our textures. So these are going to be 32 by 32 textures. The first one is going to be the air texture. So zoom, fit screen, get the pen, bluish. Let's do dark around the edges, darker. Lower the opacity down a bit. So something like, oh no. Now grab a lighter color. And this will be our air texture. So save as air.png. Overwrite since I've already done this once before. Now we're going to create the stone texture. So go to the zoom tool, fit screen, pen tool, and this time around we're going to choose a grayish tone, so gray, again dark around the edges. Okay, that should do. Save it as stone.png. Now create another one, which is going to be dirt. Again, the zoom tool, fit screen, And this is going to be more brownish. A bit more like that. Dark around the edges. Maybe increase the opacity a bit. There we go, that's pretty. Now get something lighter. Turn the opacity down. And that's dirt. Save it as dirt.png. And the last one, grass. So zoom. And we're going to copy everything in dirt.png. So copy, paste, and create some green stuff on top. So lower the brush size, get something greenish, increase the opacity. Oh, this is going to come out wonderful. And some darker green for the edges. And some lighter green with lower opacity for the rest. Oops. Save this as, actually this looks fucking ugly. So save it as a PNG. And there we go. Now we can go into our boot and see if it works, just running it. Doesn't do much, I know. So let's create a new block, call it grass is new block. Block type grass 1010 and say grass.draw. Which apparently doesn't work because we haven't enabled textures. So GL enable GL texture and do it again. And it still doesn't work, which is a problem. Okay, let's head over to our texture demo class. Texture 2D. Let's try that. GL texture 2D. Cross your fingers. Yay, that's the dirt texture, or grass texture. Okay, that's wonderful. Now let's create our block grid. So grid is new block grid. Grid dot say grid dot draw and grid dot set at 1010 block type stone. Let's try this. And this is our block grid with, as you see, air, and there's our stone texture. Now let's do something with input. So mouse input, create a method called input, and do int mouse x is mouse dot get x. Int mouse y is 480 minus mouse get y minus 1. Import the mouse class. And boolean mouse clicked is mouse dot is button down 0. So the left mouse button. And now do if mouse clicked. Then let's let's get our grid X and our grid Y by saying math dot round mouse X divided by world dot block size. No, not block size. Blocks width. That's it. Int grid Y is math dot round mouse Y divided by world dot blocks height. And we should probably increase the block's width because, as you see here, it's not filling the entire window. So go to world blocks width and set it to 24. There we go, now it fills everything. So go back to boot and just print out the grid X and grid Y values. So grid X and grid Y. I really hope this works, and it doesn't because I don't invoke the input method in the main loop, so let's do that. And there we go. This is 0x, 0y, as it should be. I think this works. So now we can do something like grid or grid dot set at. Oh, we need to make this a global variable or instance variable in this case. So grid dot set at grid X, grid Y, block type, stone. Okay. Image-based resources must be loaded. Okay. We have to initialize it in here. Now it works. And that doesn't work. And look at it. This is my mouse cursor, and that's where the stone is. This really isn't right. Hang on, I'll be right back. Okay, so I found out what the problem was. Turns out I did have to use block size for the math.round method. Reason being is that I want to round the number, so the real grid number. Basically what I have is a bunch of pixels, and I enlarge them to the display with the blocks. And here I divide them by the block size, so it's a bunch of pixels again. So it's the grid. And then I round the number so I can use it for my grid. So now, as you see, it does work. I can do stuff with blocks like this. When I hold my mouse cursor down, I can do this. And let's create a saving and loading mechanism. Interruption, I'm back again. So, as I said before, let's do the saving mechanism. So, let's go to block grid and create a method called save. And this will take a file as parameter. So, file, save file. And we're also going to create a constructor which loads the blocks from a file. So public block grid file load file. And of course we're going to create a method public void load file. Now for this we're going to be using JDOM. So we're going to import org.jdom and basically everything in there. And I'm going to head over to my JDOM example. JDOM test. So let's start with writing. If you want to know more about JDOM, you should check out my Intermediate Java series. It's one of those episodes. So go to block grid, save, create a new document. Document is new document. And create a root element, which is going to be called blocks. Document set root element root. And now we're going to loop through all our blocks and save them. So for, well, you know, the nested for loop we created 2 times earlier, twice. Okay, so say in the nested for loop say root.add content new element block add set attribute x to blocks x, y, get x, and also set attribute. You know what, we should create an element called block here. It's a bit more easy, it's a bit easier to understand, so do this and say block dot set attribute x to blocks x, y dot get x, and block set attribute y blocks x, y get y, and for some reason string dot value of string dot value of. There we go. So it's going to set some attributes x and y to string representation of the block in the current iteration x. Now of course one thing's missing, which is of course the block type. So type string dot value of blocks x, y, get type. There we go. Now say root add content block. And I have a feeling I have to use sax outputter. XML outputter. So we'll use the XML outputter class. XML outputter output is new XML outputter output. Oh jeez. Output document. So document to new file output stream. Ah, jeez. New file output stream, which is going to be the save file. And if for some reason we fail to save, we'll just throw some random errors. Okay, let's try the save method out. So an input to while keyboard dot next if keyboard dot get event key is the same as keyboard dot key s, save our grid to a file called save.xml. Just save the file, I think. So let's go to our workspace. And there's the XML file. Open it with Text Wrangler. And this is incredibly hard to read. But you get the point. Oh, and I think I'd better use the grid X and grid Y values, so instead of using the actual X and Y values, which are dependent on the window dimensions, I'll use the X and Y variables. So go to block grid and say get X divided by block size. Same goes for Y. Now, the reading. I assume it's the same up until a certain point. We're going to need a sax builder and okay. So block grid sax builder is new sax builder document is builder.build load file. Please don't throw a sec. Oh. It did throw exceptions. In that case, we'll throw some random stuff. And I figure I'll just have to put everything in the try loop. So do this. And say element root is document.getRoot element. While let's see, how should we do this? So we want to iterate over the blocks. So get children. let's use a for each loop. So for each element block is in root.getChildren. What? Object. Let's see if this works. Nope. Well, let's do object block. I'm pretty sure it's actually an element. So for now, just print out the block, see what comes out. And when I press L, it should load. So if keyboard get event key is keyboard dot key L grid dot load new file save dot XML. Load. So it is an element. Element E is typecast to elements block. E now let's do blocks dot integer parse int E dot get attribute value x and integer dot parse int E dot get attribute value y. See if I have my brackets set up properly, which I think is the case. So it is new. You know what? We should create an integer called x, which is this. And an integer called y, which is this. So blocks xy is new block, and this is going to be block type value of E dot get attribute value type x times block size and y times block size. I hope this works. So let's do some stuff, save it, and load it. And it throws an exception. For input string 0.0, I probably have to typecast this to an integer. So I do this, do some stuff, save it, load it, and yay, it works. So this is in the save file, and when I do stuff, I want to restore it, I'll just simply press L, and it loads it back. So, I'm Oscar from the Coding Universe, and this was episode 11, a gigantically enormous, humongous, epic, fantastic episode of great magnitude.